Hi there friends, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. I'm really happy to have you here with me today in the high tunnel where we have a bunch of work to do. So it is, let me check the date. I don't actually even know what the date is today. It is August 11th and we are definitely at the point where we can feel autumn in the air. The temperatures have started to come down a little bit. We're still getting nighttime temperatures kind of between 9 and 10 degrees Celsius, which is great. And if the temperatures can stay up around that high in the evening for the next couple of weeks, or at night for the next couple of weeks, that would be really, really great, because plants like tomatoes and peppers don't really like to drop much below that. It starts to really stunt their growth. But needless to say, we are at the point of the season where things are starting to shift a little bit. The plant growth is starting to slow down a little bit, and I'm needing to do some work in my high tunnel in order to encourage the fruit that we do have on these plants to actually ripen. So what we're going to be doing is going through and I'm going to be topping all my tomato plants. So what that means is we're going to be going along and actually cutting the tops off of my tomato plants down to whatever fruit is on the plant that I think has enough time to actually size up and ripen. Flowers like this, so tomato flowers, usually take around 20 days from the point of flowering and being pollinated to actually producing sized up fruit. And then it takes around another 10 to 15 days or so, depending on the tomato, the variety and the size of the tomato, for those fruits to actually ripen. We will normally start getting really cool temperatures in the evening by the end of August, and we often have a light frost even around the end of August. By the second week of September, we'll have seen a hard enough frost to kill off frost-sensitive plants like tomatoes. Now, every year is of course different. Last year we had a little bit of an extended warmer autumn, and we didn't see a harder frost until, I'd have to go back and double check, but until towards the end of September, which is great. If that can happen this year, that would be amazing, because we had a really cold spring and my plant's growth didn't really start to take off until around 4 or 5 weeks ago or so. So we definitely could use some warmer temperatures to give us a little bit more time on this end of the season to ripen up some of this fruit. So at this point in the season, having flowers on the plants, there's basically no point. What we need to do is to get those flowers off so that the plant can put what energy it has left into getting those fruit really sized up and ripening them. To make a decision about topping your tomato plants or not has a lot to do with the growing zone you're in, the amount of frost-free days you have. If you're at the point where you only have, say, 30 days left in the growing season before you're going to see a frost, that's a good time to top your tomato plants or to remove the flowers on your tomato plants. Because like I said, it takes around 30 days kind of start to finish from flowering to ripened fruit for a tomato to develop. But if you're in a long enough, warm enough growing season, it's not really necessary. In a short season like ours, it is definitely something that you might want to consider. So let me show you what we have for tomatoes right now. I am pretty excited about this. So as you can see here, we have lots of beautiful tomatoes. These are Arbizon beefsteak tomato, which is a really good northern garden tomato because it doesn't grow huge. We can't really grow those really big, gorgeous beefsteaks here. This is kind of the max size for a beefsteak tomato that has enough time to ripen. But this is a good one, and they're absolutely loaded. And down here you can see we're starting to get a blush on our tomatoes, which is really exciting. The Arbizons did really, really well this year. Look at these beauties. So many beautiful tomatoes. Look at that big one down there. So these are my determinant tomatoes down here. You can see the difference between the size of these ones and the size of my indeterminate tomatoes over here, which are just about hitting the roof of the high tunnel. But these ones I have not really done a lot with over the last couple of weeks, and they're definitely got a lot of jungle action happening. And you can see in there, we actually have some tomatoes we can pick in there, some nice ripe ones. Look at that beauty. I cannot remember what variety this is. I wonder if I can see the tag. Nope, I'm gonna have to wait till I pull the plant out. But I think this is one of the new ones from Moonglow Gardens that I got. Lots of gorgeous tomatoes in here. So that's really exciting. So this whole row all the way along here, these are my peppers. Oh, quick peek over here. on our lone little artichoke. Look at that artichoke. We have some aphid action on these plants. So that is why these red ants have been really enjoying hanging out here, because I noticed the red ants here, I think in my last video, and someone mentioned aphids, but I didn't actually notice the aphids because normally ants really like wherever aphids are, because aphids release kind of like a sweet, sticky substance that the ants like to eat. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna get my hose and get this a really good spray off and see if I can't get rid of those aphids. I'm not the least bit concerned about the aphids this time of year, just because we're late enough in the season that they can't cause that much damage, but I will use a hose and spray those ones off anyway. One of the things you might notice when you're later in the season like this is that the leaves of your tomato plants will start to yellow a little bit. They'll start to die back a little bit. And I remember when this first happened in my high tunnel, I was super concerned that there was some kind of disease in here. We don't have blight where we are, but I thought maybe it was something like that. But it actually is just kind of the natural aging process of a tomato plant. It's heading towards the end of its lifespan. So don't worry if you see that on your tomatoes this time of year. So we're going to actually cut right up to the top of our trellis here. This is concrete mesh that I use for my trellising my tomatoes. And then we'll go through, and if there's any other flowers that are on these plants anywhere else, they actually don't seem to be flowering too much right now, we'll remove those as well. Okay, this is gonna seem kind of brutal the first time that you do it, but just trust me, it's a good thing to do at this time of year. Okay, so you can see here we have tomatoes right here, and then we have another branch up here that actually has some little tiny tomatoes forming. So since I don't know if the temperatures are going to drop like they usually do by the end of August, or if we're going to end up with an autumn like last year that was nice and warm, I am going to actually leave this little clump here, because we could potentially have 30 more warm days. So I'm going to leave those, but I am going to pull off, wow, this is a really thick stemmed plant, the extra leaves that we have here. Just going to pull those off. We're going to take, you can see here, we have flowers there. That is not going to have a chance of growing anything, so we're actually going to remove that entire branch. So you can see here, we've trimmed this up a ton. I have a bunch of basil in here that I am going to harvest as well. So we'll do a bit of harvesting today too. I actually have some cauliflower up in the garden that we need to harvest too. So we'll do some harvesting once we're finished all this pruning. Oh, that basil just smells amazing. If you prune your basil plants regularly, oh shoot, I just took off a little tomato, your basil plants regularly, you will be able to get harvests off of them all summer long. So you can see we have some little melons on these potted melons that I have here. I put these in late, so I didn't really expect them to do much, but I'm going to do the same thing on the melons that I'm doing on the tomatoes for the very same reason. And if I have time, I may even do this on some of my pumpkin plants outside. But cutting off the ends of these, there's just absolutely no way that these are going to be able to form fruit. So I'm going to pull off any of the really tiny fruits that are on here, just because they're not going to have time. And I'm also going to clip off the ends of these vines. I might just leave this one. This one's not going to produce fruit at all anyway, but it looks pretty there. So the other thing that we're going to do besides cutting off the tops of our tomato plants is we're going to prune off a lot of the extra foliage as well, as long as we leave enough on here that the plant can still photosynthesize. The stress that we're giving this plant by causing it a little bit of damage by removing all of these extra branches is actually going to cause the plant to put energy into ripening that fruit, because the whole point of a plant, and I've talked about this before, but is to propagate itself. So it's to produce seed. And these tomatoes are actually the way that the tomato plant is producing seed and is going to be able to, in undisturbed environment, these tomatoes would fall on the ground and that would grow the new plant. So the plant is highly motivated to produce fruit. So if you put it under a little bit of stress, that actually encourages the plant to ripen out the fruit that it has, because it would rather produce some seed than none at all. Oh, there's a little moth. That is a cabbage moth. That is number 2. That's the second cabbage moth that I have seen this year. I wonder why the cabbage moth would be in here. We don't have any cabbages in here. But needless to say, putting your plants under a little stress is not actually a bad thing. So you only want to compost foliage or plant matter from your garden that is not diseased in any way. You don't want to put disease into your compost, because some diseases can actually last through the winter, and then you can reinfest your garden with disease the following year. This is my least favorite thing to do. It's topping my tomato plants. I don't like doing it. For the ease of harvesting, I'm actually going to take off a couple of these sunflowers. We'll bring those inside. And I have never had this happen before. I don't know if I showed this in my last video, but where the tops of my sunflowers are so heavy that they've actually bent over. I had it happen on this one and then on this one over here as well. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if the stems were just weaker for some reason, or what was going on. Okay, we have one side done, and I feel like that is a lot more manageable, and I can see all the gorgeous tomatoes on there. So now on to the other side. So this is our northern melons in here. So I'm going to clip these way back because we have lots and lots of melons on the inside, and I do want to see those ones hopefully ripen. I'm really excited about them. Plus, I kind of need a way to get in through here. Beautiful melon in there. Boy, these ones are, if I remember, they're kaleidoscope pink, and they're just loaded with tomatoes. It's a new one. I haven't grown that one before. You can see here I have fallen over plant there that I'm gonna have to trellis up. But this is a virtual jungle in here that we got to clear out. I have to admit that as much as I don't really love cutting these off, there is something very satisfying about clearing these out and then having the pathways able to be walked down again. So I'll go along and top everything first. Along here, we have so much to remove from here. Let me show you this. So I've talked about blossom end rot before, but this is what blossom end rot looks like. So it starts rotting at where the blossom end is, hence the name. And this is generally caused by irregular watering and the lack of the tomato plant being able to uptake calcium from the soil. So a lot of people think if you just add more calcium to the soil that it's going to deal with this problem, but that's not actually the case. If there's not sufficient water in the soil, then the plant can't get the calcium out of it. So what almost completely, this is the first one with blossom end rot I've seen here in a couple years, but what almost completely got rid of this was having drip irrigation and consistent deep watering with my tomato plants. So this is just a one-off. I'm not sure why it happened to this one, but it's the only one in all of these tomatoes that I've seen so far that has blossom end rot. And before putting in the drip irrigation, I struggled with it quite a bit. And I thought at the time, oh shoot, I just cut off a tomato, darn it. And I thought at the time that if I just added extra calcium, that would eliminate the problem. Oh, I should just quickly mention, since we're on the topic of calcium, the whole idea of adding eggshells to your tomato plants. So over years, that will actually work. So say if I put crushed eggshells in my soil, within several years, the calcium in those eggshells would be able to have broken down enough to be able to be absorbed into the plant. But as far as being readily accessible to your plant, if your plant is requiring extra calcium, you're much better off to use liquid calcium rather than a powdered form or eggshells or anything like that, just because it takes so much longer. Even if you're using gypsum, which is a really great way to add calcium to your soil, it takes at least a year for that gypsum to be available, or the calcium to be available to your plants. So definitely better to use a liquid version. But even better is to make sure that your plants have nice deep watering and consistent moisture. Okay, we're making some progress here, slowly but surely. Pulling out weeds as I go. The other thing that cutting off all of this extra foliage is going to do is help to get light into these plants, which we need every bit of light in here that we can get. It's just a madhouse jungle down here. So this is a great example of that kind of just aging leaf situation that I was talking about. That's nothing to worry about. Okay, look at this. So I have cucumbers climbing in all over here. We have cucamelons, that's these little guys, climbing in all over here. And then we have a squash plant that I decided to shove in the corner over here. Look at how glorious that flower looks. But this jungle situation we need to take care of. Okay, let's see what we got. Cut that one off. Oh my goodness, we have so many beautiful cucumbers in here. So these cucumbers here, these are Socrates, and this is a really great variety for northern growing, and I get these from West Coast Seeds. But this year, they grew better than they have ever grown before. I don't think I've ever seen so many beautiful cucumbers. And there's only, I think, 2 vines in here. I think I have a burpless in here too. So we're gonna do the same thing. Where did I just put my scissors? Aha. In here, and we're gonna just cut off these extra vines that are just not gonna produce anything this late in the season. Get some light in to the plant here. Make some room to move. So all these yellowing leaves, ooh, shoot, that you can see in these, that's just from Poor air circulation, a little too much humidity down here, not enough actual light. This is what a cucamelon looks like. They're yummy. Super crunchy, kind of lemony a little bit. I grow them for my youngest daughter because she loves them. Actually, I have some tomatoes hiding in here too. Should still get a few cucumbers out of here. Do you know what I want for lunch today? Is a peanut butter and cucumber sandwich. Have you ever had a peanut butter and cucumber sandwich before? If you have not, I highly recommend you give it a try. It is a surprisingly scrumptious combination. And I think that's what I'm gonna do because I have been craving one for days. Okay, now we can sort of get through here. The cucamelons are all climbing up this one tomato here, so I'll leave that one. Just to use as a trellis. Oh, another, oh no, we can leave that one to grow a little bit longer. Any other cukes in here? Oh, there's another one. So I am planning on making a gigantic Greek salad out of all of these gorgeous cucumbers. Definitely my best cucumber harvest, or slicing cucumber harvest I have had maybe ever. Look at those. So beautiful. So, almost have this all done, but I am going to give a little bit of fertilizer to my peppers because it's a little bit late in the season to do this, but it's not going to hurt them, and it might help give them a little bit of a boost to get through the last bit of the season here. So this is just the stuff I use, the Alaska fish fertilizer. Very stinky stuff, but it works great. I'm gonna harvest my peppers first before I go dump fish fertilizer all over them. Some gorgeous peppers in here. I think I'm going to make a pepper jelly with these. Maybe some cowboy candy. I like doing a mix of jalapenos and banana peppers for cowboy candy because it's not quite as hot that way. Got a few jalapenos here to pick. Most of these we can leave to size up. We'll grab a couple. Some little tiny ripe candy cane peppers here. I'm excited about these. This is the first time that I've ever grown Tabasco peppers before, but these little plants are just laden with them. Beautiful green peppers in here. Look at that. That one's called King of the North. I think we'll pull these ones off here since they're weighing the plant down like crazy. I cannot for the life of me remember what these are, or if they're hot or mild. So I guess we'll give them a try. Mild and tasty. That's not a bad little harvest from the high tunnel. And now we are back in our brassica patch. I made a little bit of a mistake last night. So I have cabbages that are very close to being mature. In fact, they're probably good enough to pick at this point. But I put my sprinkler on here, and so it's never a great idea to heavily water cabbages when they are close to being mature, because they'll put on a ton of growth all of a sudden with that extra moisture, and then this happens and they end up splitting. So I only have one that's split, but we are going to harvest a bunch of these because they are ready. And then we also have some gorgeous cauliflower in there that we need to harvest, and they really are just stunning cauliflowers. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? So these ones are called self-blanching, and what that means is that the way that the leaves grow are really upright like this, which shades out our cauliflower so it stays nice and white like that, instead of turning, I probably have an example of one over here, a little bit yellow like this one. Oh my goodness, look at that gorgeous one. So I think we are going to have to do 2 wheelbarrow loads up to the house, because I don't think we're going to be able to use or to fit all of these cauliflower and all of the cabbage in the wheelbarrow. I have some beets hiding in here. I didn't know I planted beets in here. Definitely growing these ones again. I usually grow ones that are called Skywalker, and they're really nice broccoli too, or cauliflower too, but barrel full of cauliflower. So I'm gonna run these up to the house and then come back down and pick up our cabbage. All right, I think that should do us for a bit. So one of the things about this time of year is it is a bit of a grind, because when things are ready out of the garden, that's when you need to deal with them. And for certain things like pickling cucumbers that really do best if they're preserved pretty much right away when they're brought out of the garden, you kind of have to do it whether you want to do it or not. So even though I just harvested all of those cabbages that we're going to have to deal with, they had to come out of the garden. They couldn't stay in there any longer. I would have ended up losing them, as well as the cauliflower. We also still need to get in here and pull out cucumbers and probably make a batch or 2 of pickles. Oh, I just wanted to show you these. So this is a new type of daisy. This is called a painted daisy, and they're really, really beautiful. So I'm hoping these are going to come back next year, like my Shasta daisies did over here. They just look beautiful. So you remember how we planted spinach down here where we took our garlic out? Have weeds, of course, but we also have spinach coming up. So that's always exciting. And we also have a whole bunch of our zinnia that are creeping in behind our very enthusiastic cosmos over here. I normally don't pick flowers to bring in the house. I just enjoy them in the garden. But I think because I'm not going to be able to enjoy these because they're hiding behind these cosmos here, I might pick some of these and have a bouquet up at the house. And our sunflower wall back here. Now, a lot of these seeds were sent to me by subscribers, and they are types that I have never grown before, and they are so beautiful. Look at these, just gorgeous. This one is probably one of my favorites. It's so heavy, it's fallen over here, but they're just beautiful. Some traditional yellow ones. Oh, look at that. Wow, I have never seen one like that before either. How beautiful. I can't wait until all of these are blooming. So let's sneak in here and pick a few of these beauties. They're so beautiful, aren't they? This is a new mix that I haven't tried before. Aren't they beautiful? I'll put the name on the screen because I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I love the coral colors of them. And do you guys remember how I had straw flowers planted in this bed last year? So they self-seeded and are finally coming up here, and we actually have one that's blooming over here. I didn't actually start any straw flowers this year. I'm not sure why I didn't, but it looks like we're gonna get a few, which is great. We have another one of those painted daisies coming up here. So pretty. Look at that poppy. Oh my gosh, that is just beautiful. I love poppies. I do want to plant a really big bed of poppies next year. This one's one of my favorites with the yellow on the inside and the pink on the outside. We have a bowl of cherries here that we need to bring up too. Some raspberries. And then, and I can hardly believe it, but I have cucumbers, slicing cucumbers, growing outside. I have never been able to grow slicing cucumbers outdoors. Here before, I've always grown them in my high tunnel, but I had a couple extra plants, so I just decided to throw them in over here, and they did pretty darn well, actually. Oh, I wanted to show you this before we went inside. So this is a crookneck squash plant, isn't it just gorgeous? Maybe I did show you guys this before, I can't remember, but these seeds were sent to me by a subscriber, and we are going to have lots of beautiful yellow squash. I have had so many of you send me recipes for yellow squash, so I'm really excited to try them because I think I've only grown this once before and it didn't do very well, but it's certainly doing well this year, isn't it? And all of the rest of the squash and the pumpkins are also doing very well. Okay, let me show you what we ended up with. Good size wheelbarrow full of cucumbers and cabbage. So now we're gonna get all this stuff brought up to the house. We have our little haul from the high tunnel over here too, and we'll get everything spread out and make some decisions about how we're gonna preserve it all. Okay, let me show you what we ended up with here. So these are all those peppers. We are going to be pickling some of these and turning the rest of them into cowboy candy. These are all of our cucumbers. I'm gonna make peanut butter and cucumber sandwiches for lunch, but we're also gonna turn this into some Greek salad. We have all of these sour cherries here, so we're gonna pit these and turn this into cherry pie filling. Raspberries are gonna go into the freezer for smoothies. We have all of our gorgeous pickling cucumbers here, and these we are going to turn into, I haven't decided yet, but probably sweet bread and butter pickles. And we'll throw some of the cauliflower in with those sweet pickles because the combination is really great, probably with some onions too. And then we have all of our cabbages here, and I'm gonna clean these up. I think I am going to make some cabbage rolls, going to make some beet borscht, definitely some sauerkraut. And then all of this gorgeous cauliflower we are going to blanch, and we'll be blanching them, boiling them for 3 minutes, dunking them in cold water, and then they will go into the freeze dryer and also into the freezer. So we definitely have our work cut out for us, that's for sure. Okay, let's make ourselves some peanut butter and cucumber sandwiches. So are you a crunchy peanut butter or smooth peanut butter person? For me, it really depends upon the application. In this case, crunchy. A little salt. So good. Hits the spot perfectly. So the plan is to get all of the prep work done for the projects that we're going to do today. So get the cauliflower all chopped up. That's an easy one. That's just the blanching and putting into the freeze dryer and the freezer, and I've shown you that before in the last couple of weeks. We need to get all of the cabbage all chopped up for the sauerkraut. Anyway, mostly a lot of prep work. So I think what we'll do is end this video today, and I'll be back with you to show you all of the things that we turned all of this gorgeous food into in the next video. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.